Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name's Rebecca, I'm 44 years old, and I'm somebody who used to suffer from multiple sclerosis, who no longer experiences any of the symptoms since starting the carnivore diet a year and a half ago. Today I have got a minor cold, which means that my nose is a bit bunged up and I'm a little bit under the weather. Nothing major at all, but it's just not the best video filming situation. So I'm going to keep today's video short and just do a reflection on the fact that I am actually currently 4 months clean of a substance that I would rather not name because I might lose my ad revenue for the video. But you guys, if you've been following me, you'll know what that substance is, and it's something you can smoke medicinally when you have MS to help with your daily symptoms. And I used that medication for many years, large amounts, because there's no alternative. There's no MS medication for your daily symptoms. The MS medication actually only gives you additional side effects and it doesn't help your symptoms. It just is meant to, in the future, slow down the progression of the disease to some degree. And your neurologists will tell you there's nothing you can take for your daily symptoms. You just have to learn to live with them. However, there is this substance, there is this medication, and they will admit that, but it's just that because it's illegal in many countries, they can't officially recommend that. But a lot of people with MS use it, and it's a thing, right? So I was using it. I used to smoke it recreationally before I got sick, but I had more of a control over that. I was actually studying for a PhD when I got sick back in 2016 when I was 36, and I wasn't using at all. I was focused on my career. But when I got sick, a few months after I got sick, somebody said to me, "Do you know that this substance actually helps?" And I thought, well, hey, I'm really pleased to hear that because I really like this substance, and now I've got an excuse. Not an excuse I would ever have wanted, but I had like a justification for enjoying this substance, which did actually bring me quality of life. It helped me feel more normal again. But apart from the fact that it is, a mind-altering substance and it does have negative side effects, it also brought me a lot of judgments. So it wasn't a great situation. People did not take my MS seriously at all. They would overlook it completely and just focus on the fact that I smoked this substance and say, well, that's the reason for all your problems. That's the reason you're not working. That's the reason you're isolated at home. That's the reason you have a bad memory. Overlooking the brain damage that I had, overlooking the absolute exhaustion and other symptoms that I had. So that was very, very hurtful, very difficult. So to cut a long story short, a really very long story, suddenly very short, I started the carnivore diet, and this was after I'd moved to Spain, up a mountain, to a whole new environment, to start a whole new life, but I was still using this substance. But when I switched to the carnivore diet, suddenly my symptoms disappeared. So there was no need anymore to use this substance. I wasn't combating symptoms anymore. I didn't have any symptoms, so the root cause had been addressed, and that's thanks to the carnivore diet. So that's obviously the whole point of my channel. This has completely changed my life, and I've got plenty of videos discussing that. But what happened then was that I realised, well, now I've got no reason to continue smoking this. It had become a habit by that point, and something that I was so used to doing, and my tolerance was so high that I could smoke large quantities without really feeling the effects, so I would then just smoke more. I wasn't smoking it mixed with tobacco, as is habitually done back in the UK. I know in America that's not the culture, but I had cut out tobacco for my health, but I was still smoking this, and so my lungs were often very choked up, and I wasn't really very productive. It made my brain more fuzzy, and I was more antisocial than I would have been. There's definitely negative side effects to this substance, but for me the worst side effect was the judgments from society. That was very, very difficult, and its illegality. Its illegality was a problem. So I got very well again. I felt absolutely fine, and so I thought, well, now I've got to move on to thinking about reducing my consumption of this substance or eliminating it completely. And I wasn't ready to do that straight away. When I got well again, I wasn't quite ready to do that because I had the habit. I was psychologically addicted to it, but the difference was obvious even though I was still using the substance. So that was something I was really happy about, that it was obvious now, people couldn't deny now that that wasn't my major problem. My major problem had cleared up, and now this was just a lingering side effect of that problem that I now needed to address. So I'm glad that I spent that time on the carnivore diet, still consuming it. Everybody who met me was like, my God, you're a completely different person. Your memory's back, your brightness is back, your everything is different. And I was able to say it's the diet. But it's a completely different substance in an ill body to a healthy body. So time came where I did have to address it. And not only that, but I was in a very bad relationship, and lots of external people got involved in that relationship, and my whole life blew up basically. And that left me very depressed. So I moved away to Galicia, as you'll know if you've been following my channel. And I spent a year in Galicia where the inevitable depression played out, which I'm really glad happened in a different location. And I've been able to move back to where I live, Asturias, having shifted that depression. And a big part of shifting that depression was kicking this substance. So I don't attribute the depression to this substance, because the depression was inevitable because of the awful things that happened and just how far it went. There's no way I could have gone through that and not had a knock-on impact on my mental health. But I was using this substance to I was still using the substance, and I believe that substance was keeping me in the depression. So I wasn't my best carnivore self, and I wasn't reaching my fullest potential as a healthy person again. And I knew it was a problem, so I attempted to give it up. First of all, I gave up smoking it, which was over a year ago now. And I think just under a year ago, I gave up smoking it, and I haven't smoked it since. That's fine. I've knocked that on the head. I'm really pleased about that, because for me, the habit of smoking is the most addictive element of it. But what I did start to do, and I think it's like often when you're addicted to something, it's like there is sometimes a bit of a process of learning, like how do I approach this? At what point do I accept that I have to cut it out entirely? And you do that by relapsing and feeling bad about relapsing and realizing, so I went through that process of thinking, well, maybe if I add it to my food and eat it instead of smoking it, then it's less addictive and I can just enjoy it once in a while, and wouldn't that be great? And so I did do that, and then it turned into a daily habit of consuming it with my ribeye steaks. A little bit of a herb on top of it, and that was fun, and it worked, and I thought this was great. But I realised it had become a daily habit, and I was really quite deep in this depression. So I eventually realised, no, I've got to actually take this very seriously and get rid of that habit of consuming it in a different way. It's the substance itself is the problem, not the way I'm consuming it. I actually, as I've mentioned in a previous video, decided to go to NA, Narcotics Anonymous, and my experience there was mixed. I appreciated it, I respected it, and I really liked the people I met there. But what I really didn't like was the absolute emphasis on being an addict, because it's not that I'm in denial about the fact that I'm an addict to this substance, I'm addicted to this substance, psychologically speaking, because it's not actually physically addictive in the same way as tobacco, for example, or harder substances. It's softer on you in that respect. It doesn't give you huge withdrawal symptoms, and you are able to give it up without too much bad effect, except for perhaps bad sleep. That was what I struggled with, actually. I struggled with getting to sleep, and that's what pushed me back onto it. So you have to go through the process of re-regulating your sleep, and that takes a little longer. But in terms of being psychologically addicted, I would say I definitely was psychologically addicted. So I would go to these NA groups and I would play along with the script. There's a script, and that script is very much like, I was an addict, this ruined my life. And there's a lot of emphasis on not naming the drug itself, but naming the fact of being addicted to it and how that ruined your life. And I understand that. It's the kind of rituals and repetition and the constant reminder, the regular reminders, and having a key ring for how long you've been clean, and then you get a different coloured key ring the longer you've been clean, and it kind of moves up, and it's like brownie guide points, or yeah, it's psychological games to help you stay off it, and I fully respect all of that. But what I found was that it was actually bringing up trauma, in the fact that when I was really sick, people would completely overlook my MS, which was essentially brain damage, and just, oh no, that's nothing. Your problems are all because of this habit you've got with this substance. You've brought all your problems on yourself, and just minimizing completely what was going on in my body and why I needed the substance in the first place. And I desperately needed the compassion of those around me and non-judgment of those around me surrounding this issue, but I received quite the opposite. And I found that very difficult to deal with. So going to these groups, these NA groups, and the emphasis being completely on, you were an addict, you brought these problems on yourself, it's within your control to end your problems. And that may well be true, you know, in terms of illness as well, but it just brought back that level of trauma that people just aren't seeing. This huge catastrophe that my body experienced, and my long fight to get back to health again, just being completely overlooked, and people only writing me off as a drug addict. Like that's I couldn't handle that, and this was just bringing up that trauma again. And also I would say that the constant emphasis on talking about the addiction, or the you know, how long you've been clean, to me just makes me think about it more. So I found it's more effective to just cut it out, enjoy my life, and not think about it anymore. And that's where I'm at. It's not part of my life anymore. I'm very happily living my life, not taking any substances, whether that's MS medication or alternative treatments, you know, that nothing. I'm not doing anything. I'm just eating the appropriate human diet, and I'm well again. So point being, I'm 4 months clean now, and I don't want to put too much emphasis on this, but at the same time I thought it would be a good idea to just fill you in on the fact that I am still clean. And I think it is fair to say that it does have a real benefit. Like, having gone carnivore gave me the strength to kick the habit, and I am now benefiting hugely from having kicked the habit. So I'm much more productive, and my sleep's re-regulated. I don't need any aids to get to sleep. It doesn't feel like there's anything missing in terms of a habit or anything. I'm just free of it. I'm completely free of it. And, you know, if I get stopped and drug tested when I'm driving, because in Spain you can get drug tested without probable cause. So you can be checked for drink driving or driving under the influence without probable cause. And the thing about this substance is it stays in your body for like a couple of weeks. So even if you're not under the influence, you can get done for driving under the influence, even though there's no sign of it. You're not in an altered state of mind, you're perfectly fine, but 2 weeks ago you had a puff and the police have just decided to randomly check you. So that wasn't a nice situation, and I'm free of, you know, free of stuff like that. I'm free of people's judgments. One thing I don't like is when I meet people and they can see the difference in me, and they now attribute it to the fact that I'm not smoking anymore, and again overlook the fact that the carnivore diet happened and my multiple sclerosis symptoms have gone. Like, that irritates me, because I'm like, look how far I've come. Like, this was just one step in the process, one further benefit from this huge journey that I've been walking, and this near miracle of getting rid of my multiple sclerosis again is just completely overlooked, even though in a positive way this time, you know, oh, you're not smoking anymore. But I don't mind that so much, because obviously when you have got your health back and you've got your strength, you can withstand judgments much easier. They don't hit so hard. They don't, you know, you're not weakened and isolated and depressed. So it's easier to, that's why it's so important to support sick people and not just jump to judgment, because they're literally the people who can't handle that the most. They're the most vulnerable people. So I just want to say that if you're healthy and you happen to be watching this video and you meet somebody who has an illness that you don't see and you don't understand, just believe them and don't judge them. So I think this is where I'm at. Like, everything's going great. As I said, I've got a cold today, so I'm probably not my most articulate self, but I'm 4 months clean and I am benefiting from it, and it's all good. And I just wanted to fill you in on how it's going, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.